Welcome to the Jira Life, the place to find news, events, and interviews with the Atlassian community's movers and shakers. Join our hosts, Alex, Dr. Jira Ortiz, and Rodney, the Jira guy Nissen, as well as the Jira amigos in the peanut gallery, as we sit down and discuss the latest going on in the Atlassian ecosystem. Because we didn't choose the Jira Life, the Jira Life chose us.
Hello, Alex and Sarah.
Hi.
Hello.
I would like to note, case in point, Alex may appear like he's in Atlanta. He is not in Atlanta. Alex, why don't you share where you are today?
But I am in Phoenix. I came to the land of the deserts and still trying to figure out why people live here.
I mean, Bob could tell you, but
No, I don't think Bob could. It makes no sense. None of this out here makes sense.
Well, maybe if you're, no, compared to where you are, I guess that's the challenge, right?
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. Is I live like in paradise, right? So it's like everything else is like
It's
doesn't
the
make sense.
relativity of it all.
Yeah, does not compute.
I'm fine to visit, but I have had near deadly allergic reactions in the desert in the Southwest before, so it's not a place I'm eager to live.
What did you have an allergic reaction to?
I would love to find out one day. But in the meantime, it's not a problem out here, so
Come
Oh
back,
my
come back
God.
and find out.
not today.
And
Not today.
yeah, I
Maybe
see.
next year. We
I see
we
the
have
thing.
we've been talking about making these events a yearly occurrences now. So I think
We
we're gonna have
should.
like a yearly November, a yearly I would say a yearly October St. Louis, a yearly November Austin, a yearly March Phoenix.
It's
Which
been
now
about
you're
a year
like,
since we last were there, weren't we? Wasn't it, Alex?
It was last May, but that was way too toasty for me. So we're making this a March thing. Way too toasty. My test was a lot happier this time around. It's not yelling at me all day. Poor Tesla. Last time it was not putting up with that heat. But you know what does put up with heat?
Our
The Jira
backups.
backups, because this episode is sponsored by Revise. Because when it gets hot in the Jira kitchen, Revise is there to back you up. And when
Yep.
you need it, it's there to restore you.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of another one. Revise is never allergic to your data backups. No, that's
There you
stupid.
go. You know what doesn't have
There's something there.
You know what doesn't get an allergies when it comes to the Valley of the Sun? Is your Jira backup.
Yep.
Exactly. It performs no matter the temperature.
So make sure you are backing it up with the Revise.
How
There's
can
a
there
lot
be a
of-
lot of data centers out
I
there?
can't imagine why there would be a lot of data centers here.
Right?
Power's cheap.
Is it? That's
I
interesting.
doubt it. I mean, you're gotta use a lot of power to go looking that.
I mean, there's one thing out there. It's a lot of sun, so you know.
There is a limited return of efficiencies on solar
Mhm.
panels when they hit that heat, though.
I mean, yeah, but the other thing there's a lot of is space, so you know.
There's that too.
I like
I don't
the
know. I
irony.
would say that if Arizona had weather like this week, I wouldn't mind living here. I don't understand why there's like 113-degree days, 120-degree days.
Do you need us to explain it to you why there's 113-degree days?
You would think like with modern day technology, like we'd have to come up with like better methods to like shield from our natural disasters.
And yet, Mother Nature still makes fools of us all.
Unlike your Jira backup, which will not make a fool out of you when you need to restore.
Exactly.
This episode, what I gotta do in every episode is how many times I can just like sneak
Slip it in.
Revise in there.
So,
Revise is like SPF for your data. Yeah? No? Maybe?
Revise protection.
so what are we talking about today?
Oh, I have no idea.
I know.
Sarah?
It's SLAs.
Why are we talking about SLAs?
Because some of us has opinions.
And
I'll
'cause
try to
Bob
gather
told
an opinion or two in the next minute or two.
me- Are we talking about SLAs in general or as they relate to JSM specific?
Yes.
Yes.
Both are true.
So let's start with what even is an SLA? What foreign language are we speaking? What does this even
It's a
stand for?
TLA.
Okay, I don't know what TLA is, but
It's a three-letter acronym.
Oh my gosh. Initialism.
but I'm cha.
Oh, we're losing the people quick here.
Well, let us know what an SLA is.
SLA is a service life agreement. The idea is this is something as some sort of service provider. You agree, I'm going to get to your ticket, or I'm going to do something by a set amount of time.
What the heck did you call it? Service life agreement?
That's what it's called. I didn't make it up.
I've called it a service level agreement.
That's what I've done. I've never heard
But I
what you said, Ronnie. Do you do things differently on the other side of the Mississippi?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and so technically, yeah, I am just west of it also. So it could
Right,
be
you are west. So on the west side of the Mississippi, we call it a service level agreement.
You know,
like our radio
there's also
station.
the chance here that I'm just wrong. Happens. But I want to stick with it.
You know what's not wrong? Your data backups.
With revise.
With revise.
I think that's 4 now. No, 5.
Ding.
We gotta do like a Mr. Beast bit, or like how many times is Alex like
Or you're exhibiting a service level agreement because maybe there was a SLA that was how many times it needed to be said within a
there we
given
go, that's
show.
my SLA.
And then we can get the metrics.
Yeah, so let's highlight this. I like what Bob's saying here, right? So service level agreements, or whatever Rodney called them, right? It's basically it's a contract. It's an agreement that you have between you as a provider of a service and your customer who wants that service. And it's really designed to like manage expectations, right? And depending on your ask, depending on your request, a lot of different teams have different levels of service agreements that they communicate and expect to maintain between said customer and said provider. I think they make the world go round, though. Service level agreements make the world go round.
They do, and they do something important that I don't think people give them credit for, and that's set an expectation with whoever your users are about when I need a request, when I need something from you, how long will it really take?
Yesterday?
I mean, that's what they want. And to be fair, when something's down, that's what I want too. But in a real world, that's not feasible.
Yeah. It's funny, though, because even with the service level agreement in place, the number of messages or requests that I've gotten and somebody will ping me moments. Like the Jira ticket is in, but the automated Jira email that goes out to the agent to tell them that a ticket has entered your queue hasn't even reached me, and I'm already getting pinged. I'm like, can I get an update? I'm like, an update on what?
So I don't know if you plan on going here, but that begs a question from me is publishing SLAs. So hopefully we'll talk about that.
Well, let's talk about it now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you guys had a set agenda because
We
playing
do
with
not.
Alex and not reading scripts today.
We
Feels
are
good, doesn't it?
We are playing this by ear.
Nice. Okay. So if somebody sends in a ticket, then immediately, what's the update? What's going on? So especially talking about, like, let's say an internal JSM, and you've got your SLAs associated with that. Are you publishing them so people know what they are? I've heard 2 sides to this, and I'm curious your takes.
That's something I've always wondered, because as a Jira admin, I am so used to always having the keys to the kingdom, right? And being able to see everything. And being a customer, being on the receiving end is usually a rarity, right? It's not something I get to experience a lot. So my immediate knee-jerk reaction when I get a ping right in moments, milliseconds after a request has been submitted, is like, can you even see that dumb SLA in Jira?
No.
No.
That would explain why they piss me off then.
But one situation where I have been a customer and seen SLAs published, and this is what irks me, it was from Atlassian. When you had server products, again, it's been a while since I've had to put in a ticket for this, but when you had a service problem with a server product, and you say, Atlassian, I need help. Here's my server support packet, all this. Depending on what priority you set, which they have guides on how to set, basically, is it down now? Is it just degraded? What's the situation there? They tell you how long you could expect to hear from them.
I feel like, why aren't the SLAs published? Like, it defeats the purpose of the SLA a little bit, doesn't it?
They should be. I really do. And if the product is not going to do it, you need to have that somewhere stated. The SLA for this is X. Don't bother me before that.
Yelling at so many people thinking that they could see my dumb SLAs. I owe some apologies to people.
We'll make smarter SLAs. But right. And it's an interesting thing, because if a component of an SLA is that it is it's an agreement or a contract with your customers, but then who's actually establishing those? Because there's a case to be made. You're working together, so in theory they know that. But when you're dealing with organizations, that are so big, obviously it's not like, hey, customer, it would be part of the contract. But then are you going to force me to go find my contract in the fine print? Go, Rodney. He's like,
you have stumbled onto a pet peeve.
Right?
Jira.
It's almost Jira level. It's not quite as bad as that. That is a whole nother level of pet peeve. But typically the SLAs are set by the service provider. That'd be you, that'd be your ISP, whoever's providing the service will set them. But what you really should be doing is going, okay, I've had this ticket before. I know how long it's going to take. Let me look at my back data and calculate off what I've done before.
Oh man, you're getting into story point territory there.
Basically, no. You should be actually looking at your time to respond or time to first contact. Whatever it is, you should be looking at a physical number that has been measured, not estimated, measured, and basing it off that. But, and here's where my pet peeves comes in. Most of the time when people set up these SLAs, they will do it. They're like, okay, here's all my data. I'm going to take the average and just use that as my SLA. The problem I have with that is the 50th percentile. That is saying I fully expect half of my SLAs to be out of contract, to be whatever. That is not a great place to be in when you're providing a service.
I'm not gonna lie, I've set up a lot of SLAs in my time, and not once have I ever gone back to look at what have I delivered before. Because I'm a Domino's pizza guy here, man. I'm 20 minutes or less.
And then your SLA should probably be 20 minutes.
Most likely it is.
I mean, there's a whole formula to go in through here to figure out the 99th percentile. But you should be looking at what am I doing and figuring out, okay, what captures most of that within reasonable. Because
but with SLAs, it's more nuanced than that, right? Because that is one of many steps. Because in Jira, at least in JSM, you can set multiple levels of SLAs within a single SLA. And so looking at your average data, I would say your response time for what though? From like a prior 1, prior 2, like how are you judging?
Yeah, you have to cut up your data. You have to process your data. You can't just take a blind average. Obviously, this is where something, and Atlassian hates it whenever I use this word. They have told me so. But this is where you really need to bust out the Excel and use it for what it's meant for and do the pivot tables and cut up your data.
You tell me Excel's not part of their system of work?
I have put in a talk I've given at an Atlassian conference saying, hey, for this particular function, you need to use a spreadsheet. And they tried to convince me to take it out. I'm like, then put it in your freaking product.
Yeah.
No shit. But I don't know that we can talk about SLAs without talking about priorities.
Absolutely.
how do you, like Jira, when you go set up an SLA, you get to control, you get to govern your different levels, right? And if I'm not mistaken, it's based off of a query, right? You can put
Yes.
JQL in there to put whatever you want, whatever you deem to be important. I think the easy de facto solution is to use your priority field and say, well, if you got Jira's out of the box stuff is what? Highest, high, medium, low, lowest, right? And depending on where you are in that scale, certain things will happen by a certain time. And that's what the SLA is really trying to encompass.
I'm going to say something controversial here. I don't think you should definitely factor your priority into your SLAs. I'm not disagreeing with that point. But priorities for me was always more about what issue in the queue do I handle first? Not, oh my God, I have to get to this because we have a lower SLA to it. It's like, okay, I have a priority one.
How are
That's
those
my
different?
first
It's the
off the
same
top of the
thing.
list.
That's the same. That's one and the same.
No. One is just a natural consequence of the other.
But what
You're handling it first because it's a rank. It's like a agile ranking. You go, okay, this is my priorities. This is my ranking for whatever my sprint is. Priority should do the same thing in your queue. You should go, okay, this is what the top of my queue is because that's the highest priority. And of course, that one gets done faster because it's on the top of the list.
Right. So that's why they're one and the same.
They're not. One is a consequence of the other. I'm going to stop this here because we're going to have another F1 driver discussion that's going to go off the rails for 30 minutes.
I'm just saying, you're going to work on something that's a higher priority as quickly as humanly possible because it was due yesterday.
And what, in your opinion, how do you set the priority as a service provider, or do you let the customer set the priority?
I hit this from a lot of different angles. I never trust the customer, right? Because to every customer, no matter what it is, everything's an emergency. It's always Chicken Littles running around with their heads cut off and the sky is falling all at the same time. So I would not trust a customer to set a priority level at all.
I like that answer.
2, I am a huge, one other thing that we should probably talk about, right, is like what gets an SLA? Because you wouldn't put an SLA on like new things, right? Like on an enhancement or something like that. But usually SLAs are correlated to some sort of a fix, right? Because you're managing the expectation of when are you going to, in air quotes, fix something and by when, right? And so usually then you're gravitated towards a problem, right? Some sort of an incident, defect, something has gone the wrong way. Which, by the way, if you would have your Jira backup with Revise, you wouldn't have to worry so much about these problems.
Ding.
Right? But it's you're usually reacting to somebody's quote unquote emergency, right? And I think it's important to first justify that emergency because again, I can tell you, Rodney, I have a problem, and you're like, no biggie.
But you, as the service provider, have the full view. But I'm going to pass this off to Sarah because A, we haven't heard from her in a while, and B, she looks like she might have some opinions.
Oh, I just always look like I have opinions. It's like, the resting bitchy face, whatever.
It's the hidden power.
It's the resting opinions. I actually probably have more questions than opinions, but it goes back to talking about, like what does get an SLA and what are the different ways you're slicing and dicing your services in order to apply those SLAs. Going on over in the chat too, we have the ideas of, priority is just one of the facets of setting them. And that's the great thing, right? With the ability to use a query. And then now that they've built in the functionality to quickly say everything that meets this, but has these separate priorities to set those separate goals, I think has been really handy. Where I'm curious about, Alex, is when you said a SLA on a new feature.
You wouldn't necessarily.
You wouldn't set an SLA on a new feature, but then how many SLAs are you devising that
Here-
you would extract out and say, you know, my SLA applies to this, but not this new feature?
Here's what I do. First thing I do is I categorize each incoming ticket by what it actually is. What is it actually asking for? Is it a password reset? Is it an account reset? Is it help
So
with
we're
the
talking
query?
request type,
What
right?
is it? What am I doing in that ticket? Actually doing at the end of the day. What is the ask? And then again, I compile that up. It's data. I look at, okay, how does this break down? What percent of which task am I doing? If it's a
Geez,
task
Rodney,
I'm
by the time
doing
you do all
less
this
than
analysis, I would have fixed the problem already.
That's one side. Back to Rodney. You'll have a chance for a rebuttal in a moment, Alex.
yeah, anything that's below 5%, I'm like, that doesn't happen often enough. It doesn't get an SLA. Save that for the bigger items. And again, Alex, the concept here is data driven, using the data to tell you how to do what you do.
I think nothing should take more than 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Disagree. Go on.
Absolutely, but sure, I'll let you talk.
What if you're good at something, what could take you more than 20 minutes?
Learning a new skill.
You wouldn't put an SLA on that.
So anything worth having an SLA, you're saying, is a task that's under 20 minutes.
In my mind, if you're good at your job, you shouldn't need an SLA. It's almost like metrics and dashboards. Like I feel like by the time you need a metric or a dashboard, your ship has gone so far off the journey that it was supposed to be on that now you're trying to justify why things are going wrong.
There are
I think
absolutely
SLAs are there. SLAs
contractual
are there
reasons.
to control behavior of the person that's supposed to do their job and they can't do their job. So you got to put something on them to help them do their job accountably.
Spoken like a true micromanager.
Well, I don't believe in SLAs, so I'm saying that's what the SLAs are there for.
But I do think they hold value with contracts, right? To be able to prove you're upholding your side of the contract. So you would need the SLAs in
But the
there and
proof is in the
measuring
pudding,
them.
Sarah. The services are up and running. You responding. You have happy customers. You don't need an
But still,
SLA.
Alex, you were just saying that even though you respond to your tickets fast, you still had people pinging you immediately. When can I expect this? That's what the SLAs are really for. Is
But
not
it's
to
irrelevant if
communicate
they
to your
can't see
boss
it.
that you're doing your job. If you're using SLAs as a performance metric, you have already failed, especially if you're taking the average. What they are is a tool to communicate to your users.
That apparently
Don't
Jira's
bother
using
me
that
about
issue.
this because this is when you can expect it to be done.
And that last thing, if you're watching, please maybe make our lives easier so that the user can actually see our SLAs.
There are, of course, plugins that let you do that.
Or this
Confluence
is a
pages.
concept here, Confluence.
Yeah. Right. In your knowledge base articles. Okay. So what is like what is your service desk? So when you're Alex, I'm looking at you because you can't tell who I'm looking at, but I'm looking at my camera on my screen. Alex, what is your persona and where are you coming from when it comes to this SLA discussion? What kind of service desk have you set up?
Well, I've set up a lot, but one big one that I usually set up is, again, nothing for me specifically, but a pretty custom one that I did was we did like some sort of a approval process type of thing where somebody was asking for monies, right? And so we have a multi-step process with different managers in play. And I was putting SLAs as you transition into a status to let that manager have an X amount of time to do their approval before bad things start happening, right? And so that's the non-IT way of looking at SLAs, but a curious way of using JSM to help people be accountable. Because one of the benefits of having the SLA that I really like that makes your JQL infinite easier is if you create multiple or different or unique SLAs themselves, you can breach them. And when they come breached, then you can do automations that if you try to figure out Jira JQL for it, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. So definitely using them to set them as timers. But where I'm curious about is everything can be done in under 20 minutes, or everything should be able to be done under 20 minutes. Because then we get into this concept, if we're using Let me just throw every letter of the alphabet into my initials. Okay, so if we're talking about JSM, and I think a lot of people definitely come from it, right? From the ITSM perspective. But then knowing we're now living in an enterprise service management and Jira for all teams, I mean, marketing department, for instance, isn't going to be able to get everything done in 20 minutes. If it's maybe just like, hey, I need to request, send me a file, perhaps. But I think there's other teams out there that don't necessarily, 20 minutes isn't necessarily the thing they're going to be able to do.
Why?
Yeah. Because they're more complex than just restart a server.
Right. But then you gotta ask yourself, are you fixing the right thing then? Complexity is not ever a good thing.
So, I mean, I can absolutely see, but there again, if we're talking about the idea that SLAs can be useful to to set a timer effectively, then it goes back to what Rodney's saying about now you're collecting data and you're able to say, okay, where am I breaching? Where am I potentially consistently breaching where we think how long something might take? And then getting back on your side of the thing, now we've identified a problem and have a case, we can make a stronger case about, hey, we need to pay some attention to this to get it fixed.
But the hard reality though is like I've been doing this Jira thing for 8-9 years and I field thousands of questions. No two questions are ever the same.
No, they're not.
So even putting metrics, like doing, that's why I was like kind of almost half poking at Rodney, right? By the time I finished doing all that analysis that he was doing, I've already fixed 15 problems.
Again, this is not work that the agents should be doing. This is managerial work. When you're looking at the data, this is not an agent task. This is a manager task. And something as a Jira admin of a JSM instance, you should be helping guide and teaching, but not doing for them either. And per your point, yes, no two requests are ever exactly the same. That's the nature of being a Jira admin. But there are themes, there are categories, there are ways you could put them in buckets.
Which you should still be able to finish in 20 minutes or less.
Okay.
I mean, your agent should be. But if you're doing the work for your agents, why'd you have your agents?
I mean, I expect everybody in my team to finish things in 20 minutes or less. I think that the harsh reality becomes, yeah, I can finish the task in 20 minutes or less, but I'm only one, right? And so you got to get a lot of people on the team to work, right? Because the more requests you have, that's usually the problem I run into, right? Like my SLA starts to slip when I now have to fix 50 20-minute problems.
And that's, again, where the data could show you, hey, I'm having more tickets come in than I can manage, and we're getting SLA slips. I need more people.
Yep.
No, because that's not the right answer. That's Mythical Man Month. The right answer is I'm getting too many SLAs on this thing. Let me pause here for a minute so I can go fix a 20-minute solution to stop the bleeding.
Alex, friend.
If you have a lot of problems coming in, there's a bigger problem here. Not I need more people on my team.
I don't disagree that there are cases where that's where absolutely that exists.
Yeah, there are situations where you could look at your tickets and identify, hey, there's a bigger issue going on. I need to do more user education or something else to help users help themselves. But sometimes it's just a matter of scale. One person handling a 20,000 user instance is going to get more tickets than they're going to be able to handle. That's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I wonder how many organizations are surviving, right? How many organizations are there that are just like they can't get to that next level of performance because they're so trapped in just reacting to the day-to-day, right? It's the living paycheck to paycheck kind of thing.
But how many organizations are just surviving because their employees don't have any skin in the game, don't care, or are very low invested in the betterment of the company or the betterment of their team because either A, they're contractors, B, they're offshore resources, or C, they just don't care because they don't get paid enough because they're not motivated in the right way.
All could be true.
Alex says as a former contractor.
I'm just saying, when you don't have skin in the game, it's easy to have a lot of problems. That's a leadership problem, not an individual problem. That's not an SLA problem.
Sir.
That is, you have sucky leadership problem.
Oh my God. Okay, so let's get back to, are we here to talk about how SLAs can be used or whether or not they should be used?
I'm saying if you need a timer.
So only in the
I'm
cases
saying
of
no data is bad data.
I'm not. I agree. I would agree. I'm just saying to gather the data can't take you longer than it is to fix the data.
And I'm saying there is value in still doing the analysis. Again, I'm coming
No,
at this
I'm a
not
brute force.
as a software engineer. I'm coming at this as a business analyst, because that's where my formal training is.
Yeah.
You're not going to convince me. 20 minutes or less for everything.
No. All right.
No
So
matter
Bob
what
says,
it is.
I think this is where the AI JSM features are. Yep. Yeah. You know, everything that they are doing with AI and JSM is interesting,
Problem
right?
is, though, the end users are. You need a really smart AI to deal with people.
Well, they're
Granted.
getting there, right?
The best part about being a Jira admin is users. The worst part about being Jira admin is the users.
I just remember sitting next to so we're on a contract where the United States government sitting next to me, representative of the United States government sitting next to me, and I pull up a Jira issue, and the bug says it doesn't work. And the guy's like, "No wonder we can't get this play off the ground." What kind of a ticket is like when you trust your end users, right? So what's AI gonna do? It's like it doesn't work, and AI's gonna go, "What doesn't work?" The thing. What's the thing?
Exactly. Can you explain the
So
thing?
you just gotta eliminate it, right? You gotta take the human element out of this thing, right? You got as an if I was like in charge of an IT department, I'd find every possible way that a human being can interact with this thing and eliminate the need for them to interact with the thing. Because you just can't trust a human.
I mean, that's the whole point behind prepared statements when you're dealing with SQL. You can't trust a human with an actual input in the field.
Sean thinks that this podcast is 20 minutes too long.
I'm like,
No, he
can we
thinks it's
throw
40 minutes
Sean's
too
comment
long.
up there? I'm dying. It's the best thing. We haven't solved this problem in 20 minutes, Alex. So how?
It wasn't
Or
as long as
you
it
might
solved.
think you might think you have solved this. but
In
this
my
is
mind,
not
I'm already 3
solvable.
problems down, Sarah.
So the way we solve all the problems is just let Alex handle it in 20 minutes.
So Sarah's coming. Watch, this is the challenge. So Sarah's gonna text me on a couple of Saturdays ago. Alex, I have arrived at John Wayne, and 20 minutes go.
Exactly.
I would pay Sarah for you to record that.
I need.
Oh
well,
my
we've
gosh, you
already
guys
got-
want to? Okay,
I might, and then so we're gonna put together. Alex is gonna be my service provider, right? Like from John Wayne are picking me up from the time I text him, and I mean, because you have my flight information, he can track my flight information, so he's got the data. He already knows how long it takes him to get there. He can already tell you like during this time of day and this time of day what things take. So therefore, I should just put the onus on you. You can track from the time my flight lands. What is our SLA for you to be picking me up?
So hold up, we gotta take a little pause on that because yes, we should definitely do that because that'll be entertaining for everybody. But has anybody heard from Ed Gill yet today?
Not
Oh
today.
no.
Because I filmed him getting into a Waymo last night, a driverless Waymo. And if he
gosh.
didn't make it home, I am now the proud owner of 7 smokers, which I have on video. So if anybody can give me an update on where Ed is at.
Well, hang on. Let's go look up Waymo's SLAs.
Well, in the Phoenix area, it's not doing too good because they end up going around in circles in the parking lot.
Oh my gosh.
And then you can't get out.
Again, AI in general, self-driving cars, it's a lot of technology in development.
With an SLA of minutes, by the way.
Yes. But I do agree with you on one thing, Alex. Definitely take the human element out where you can. the
Yes.
more AI can take care of for you. And I have never seen it actually do this myself, but I do love the idea of some of the metrics that Atlassian has put out, where they say Charlie has saved them so many minutes a year, being their JSM AI. I like that concept because that is stuff your agents are not having to deal with. You don't have to deal with the Slack messages saying, "Hey, where's my thing?" It's just taken care of for the customer.
But at the same time, though, I have a love-hate relationship with an AI-based agent because, like, my hard drive crashed the other day, right? And I know exactly what my problem is, and I know exactly what the end result should be. Yet I have to go through these hoops, and I have to go this process to finally and hopefully, what I hope was I was talking to a human being at the end of the day. So it's frustrating from an end user perspective as well. Like, too much AI is not also a good thing. There's still got to be a human touch to the thing too.
Most phone systems have a backdoor where if you cuss enough, they will route you to a human. I have abused this.
Did you know? So have you guys seen the word on the street is, I haven't tried it, but my friend Sarah, maybe she can help me out, right? But if you Google right now, right? If you go on Google, usually you'll get like an AI generated answer, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you Google something, if in your Google you put in profanity, you will get back just the Google search results.
Well, let me see. I'm going to go ahead and do that on my phone instead.
Because Google does not like the profanity, and they will like intentionally like just drop the query and just go back to regular Google where you used to get the search results.
Interesting.
So how the F do I
do something right, and it'll return back a regular Google search from 2000.
No, I just put 2 Fs in a chat and I've got all kinds of results, but no AI.
Right,
just surprisingly a Reddit thread. What?
Right, but that's what we want, right? Because if you take out the 2 Fs, you will get a Gemini answer on your question.
And just being honest, Gemini makes some stuff up sometimes.
Yeah, hallucination in AI. So interestingly enough, then, so I think we discovered a way around our SLAs. Just put enough bad words in. Somebody will.
I also need to explain to my husband in the if he goes searching through my history, like what?
Your whole like I work with men doesn't work as an excuse. Let me rephrase. I work with a bunch of immature men. Doesn't come up as an excuse.
I mean, you say immature, but if it's a solution that works.
Yeah.
You're welcome for enlightening you, by the way.
And then you got to kind of hope that you're, like be really sure you're in some sort of bot, talking to a bot and not talking to.
Can you imagine though, like every Jira story now will just have pure profanity just to bypass AI and Robo?
But yeah, it does feel like there could be a shortcut, a better proposed backdoor shortcut kind of.
Although Atlassian is an Australian company, so it's in their nature.
It used to be common knowledge for people who program phone system, which past life I did too, that 0 was for operator.
Yeah, that's how you
press
get
0, you go to operator. They stopped doing that. So this is the solution we have as a direct consequence.
Well, just to stay completely off topic, or you pretend like you're buying something new instead of asking for support. Granted, they are often going to transfer you to a support thing.
That's what you do when you go to when you go to Best Buy, right? You just walk over to the 85-inch TVs with the measuring tape. Just tell them like, but once everybody comes to help you out, just tell them, I'm just looking for ink.
Life hacks with us. And then if you want really good backup, though, all you do is talk to Revise and then you're set.
Right?
That's our other hack.
My homework is going to be come up with a soundboard with a ding for every time we come up with a Revise ad.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna like figure out how to back it up with this.
Exactly.
But
I feel like Revise needs a backup song.
Okay, should bots have should we put SLAs on bots though, and then really try to figure out Can everything be solved in 20 minutes or 20 questions?
I mean, I don't
know
know
what, that's
about
a-
bots, but I think the Best Buy people need an SLA.
No, here it is, guys. This is what we're doing on a future episode of the Jira Life. The audience people, we go ask on LinkedIn, however you want to do this. Do something where I'm not privy to the thing. Ask the hardest Jira questions, and how many can I solve in 20 minutes or less?
Hey,
And we
didn't
just do a
Larry
live
do Jira
stream.
Duty?
How many questions can I ask, or how many questions can I solve in 20 minutes?
I mean, Sarah has a point. This sounds an awfully lot like Jira Duty.
Exactly.
But it's a game now.
And if I remember right, your record for Jira Duty was 5.
Shut up.
And most of the time we got to 1 or 2 in an hour.
That's because people can't write good English, man. That had nothing to do with me.
Well, then how can you solve the problem in 20 minutes when you don't understand the problem? There has to be back and forth. So while your timers will show the timers will show 20 minutes of actual work, but the duration is going to be longer.
So that's a great, so this is SLA related though, right? Because
Exactly.
so once you have a problem solved, that's when you should be on the timer. But luckily, JSM SLAs also have a pause. So how often do you abuse your pause, and should you put pauses in your SLAs?
And there's the real challenge too, because playing the game with the data, Rodney.
I mean, I always put in my JSM workflows, waiting for customer.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do that, I set up the SLAs to pause, because your agent should not be penalized because Joe refuses to check his email.
Right. So my typical scenario, I get a question, I read it, I'm like, WTF, and I send it right back to them and put it waiting for customer. Takes me 30 seconds.
In fact, you have that as an automation. It just sends back WTF. Which, just for anybody out there on
Can
the
you
standard or
explain this
premium
using
plan.
your big boy words?
So, though, people probably already know, but just in case, for anybody on a plan where their automations are limited, there are those system automations out there for the waiting for support and waiting for customer. I believe I'm going to have to double check myself, but when there are system rule like that, then you don't get penalized, or they don't count against your usage. And when they were first being put out there, you couldn't like retroactively add them. You had to go open a new project, which was just ludicrous to think about. But I think there's ways to enact them now.
I haven't looked, but it would be interesting. But you also gave me a great idea. Every ticket should just be an auto response. Like, nope, I don't like your answer.
Well, I mean, yeah. So
I don't like your question, I should say.
There's
just automatic reply. You're solutioning. Give me a problem.
Again, I know I'm bad at it too. I love pointing out when other people don't give me problems; they give me solutions. But it is.
Wait, isn't that's got to be a pet peeve, though, right?
I mean, I think it's a pet peeve for all Jira admins.
I love it when you ask me for Jira help, but then you secretly already knew the answer, but then somehow you just wanted me as a soundboard.
Or you think you know the answer, but it's the wrong answer.
Yeah.
That I will tell you, it's really hard to be good at your job and not sounding like snarky or egotistical, right? Because one of the challenges that I have is as you're describing the symptoms of your problem, I know the answer, but somehow you think you know the answer better than me.
Again, if only there was some tool built into JSM Premium that lets you change the tone of your message from snarky to customer friendly.
Yeah, but let's talk about that. Is it worth paying 2.5, 2.7x to just take a chill pill?
I mean, no, I usually do it myself, but
with JSM Premium is more than 2x the price of JSM Standard.
Would Grammarly or some other?
Grammarly does have a tool to do it as well.
And would it work on comments? I assume it does.
I mean, even if it doesn't work on a comment, you could copy your comment, paste it in Grammarly, have it change the tone, then paste it back.
Yeah. Which, again, if you're going to be surly, you're not going to go through that. If your natural inclination is surliness.
Why are you, Sean, hating my Jira duties? My Jira duties are scheduled for an hour. In each one of them, we did more than one question.
I could have skewed the statistics, though, too. when
I know.
we
I was
started
having to explain
inviting.
everything to Sarah.
Exactly. If we took that human Sarah element out, he would have just been coasting through and providing maybe half of the right answers and half of the wrong answers. Because the thing
That's
is,
an-
with
so-
an SLA,
Okay.
Wait.
We need another Jira duty. Resolution, if you're listening, we need another Jira duty. Alex solo. We'll just spectate. We won't observe. You won't have to explain anything to us.
I'll just sit there with
But
a timer.
also, we won't help.
But that's an interesting thing, though, right? So SLAs, while they are effective to contain behavior, they can also be gamed, right? Because who's to say that even like giving an answer in 20 minutes or less, that it's the right answer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, how many of your agents are putting things to done? Because I see this in ServiceNow a lot, right? And a lot of the teams that have offshore ServiceNow agents, right? They get paid by the number of times they can just solve a problem. So if they don't like your question, they resolve it.
And that's why, though, yeah. So on the one hand, so then you further game that by not ever allowing an issue to get reopened, right? Because otherwise, what you would do is have a customer comment, reopen your issue, which restarts your timer. But again, and that becomes the challenge, right?
Again, this goes back to those metrics that Alex hates me doing so much. But you should also be tracking your reopens or reapplies. If someone sends the same ticket in multiple times, you can see that in the data. You might have a problem with people gaming the system.
I guess, yeah, you would also want to check and see how quickly are your agents solving these problems. Because if they're solving it in like under 20 seconds, we got a bigger problem.
Yeah.
I'll give it, I think 20 minutes is enough time to noodle on a problem and come up with an answer.
I mean, if something you're doing every day, it should probably take you only 5 minutes.
There you go. See, Ronnie's got a higher SLA than me.
But again, these are for the really, really common buckets.
Yeah, because I mean, I will agree to an extent with where Alex was making the correlation with story points, because what Alex might be able to get done with the time frame it might take him to do something that was a 3-point could be this, in that same amount of time, somebody else might only be able to do a 1-point story. And so holding everybody accountable to that same standard, because we can't all be robots. We can't all have the same knowledge, because some of us do still need to learn and grow. So, and if the idea, with ITSM is basically anybody can pick things up, you need to allow for that learning. There's got to be some variability.
What I do, again, Alex is going to hate this answer. I already could hear him hating this answer.
Bob, can you mute him? Is that possible?
I can mute him if I wanted to.
Awesome.
Everybody, we can unmute each other.
But what I do is I take the data and I calculate off the 99th percentile of SLAs. That is, okay, what time frame would capture 99% of the tickets closed? That way, only 1% is, in theory, ever going to be above it. That helps the people who are a little slower, but it gives you customers a reasonable estimate of what something's going to take. Bob didn't mute him.
What?
I love how my pain is your guys' pleasure.
Again, I warned you, Alex, you were not going to like the answer, but it is, from a data analysis perspective, the right answer.
Yeah. Well,
maybe I'm foolish and I just love the brute force method, because I'm still thinking by the time you're off there in La La Land coming up with those metrics, I already would have solved the problem.
Right. To the earlier point, though, a manager's going to be looking at metrics. You're going to be looking at, hey, let's just go solve the problem. And there was something else you said that I forgot. It just created a thought, and then the thought left. Oh, and it's these SLAs are not, or should not be used punitively, right? They should not be used in any way, shape, or form. They should only be used to improve processes, but not to...
Wait, you're telling me, Sarah, that your performance reviews are not based on the fact that you can only get 3 SLA breaches per quarter?
Okay, yes, a performance review can include that, but not in a way of punishment, but a way as to, again, try to
Right, because your
determine sources of
performance review is
problems.
not tied to your performance bonus, which then is then punished because you didn't.
Here's the thing. Most people agree with Alex here, and they'll set the SLA to be average, which is the 50th percentile.
This
We
guy
could
was
all agree that math works. Average is the 50th percentile. That means you're setting it so half of your stuff is going to be over SLA, and then you're telling your agents, don't go above SLA, knowing full well half is going to be above it by the way the math works.
I'm a Carl on this one here, man. My sensitivity to
Yes. We just have a special SLA for Alex.
I'm just
His
saying,
SLA is-
the way most people set up SLAs, using it as a performance metric, is setting up your agents for failure ahead of time.
Mhm.
look in the words of the great Maverick, don't think, just do.
And that's fine for Maverick. But if I remember right, he was the only one in the latest movie who could complete that course in time. And he only did it to prove it was possible for the best of the best of the best.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe you just got to get better at your job.
And maybe some
Nobody's-
people are never going to get up to the level no matter how hard they try because of other things they're dealing with.
But then maybe you got to find something you really care about, right? Because your job shouldn't feel like a job, right?
Oh my god. You are lucky, Alex. That's all I'm gonna say.
How?
You
I
are
love this stuff. I love Jira. I quit my job because they wanted me to do things that weren't Jira. So,
And fair. I mean, we're all on the show because we do love Jira and we love what we do.
yeah, if you go
And that's
put me-
admitting we are among the best at what we do.
Sarah, you're like the leader of the pack here, man.
I mean, there's not a I believe Rodney going on out there.
I know. It's all Sarah.
It's not all Sarah. It's just me. I get in here with my little play nice boys attitude. You're both good in different ways. Okay, so
Sarah
then,
is the Jira mom.
I know. I've been thinking a lot about that. Because, okay, so then here's the other thing too, right? Is something that I also can't stand. And it's a challenge because everything can be gamified. Because you also, by the one hand, you're not gonna, punish folks for maybe who aren't filling in or, completing the same number of tickets. But then you also, it becomes an interesting thing then. Are you rewarding people who do? And then do you create a situation where people could potentially be looking for the, hey, I already know the answer to this. I'm not going to try to improve. I'm not going to try to improve this to avoid this from happening because I can just keep answering this question over and over and over again and go, look at me. I got 100 of this done.
No, because at the end of the day, you only remember for the mistakes you made. And so even if you saw the million, even if you ever saw the million SLAs under 20 minutes, that one time it took you an hour, that's what they're going to remember you for.
Oof, just bump. Like that's what you just did to me. You just, I thought you were going to say you were only remembered for how you make people feel. So basically, you're only remembered for your failures.
That's
So,
all
like
people
the tickets
remember.
you
Your
do so you
performance
don't
reviews
fail.
and everything. Yeah, your performance reviews and everything. What positive things ever come out there? It will only ever remember, well, that one time he did that, or that one time she did this, or remember she said this.
I don't think that's true.
Mm.
I
Welcome
have
to-
plenty of
Don't work in
experience.
defense contractors.
I have experience in performance reviews that are not focused on failures.
I wouldn't say the focus on failures. I'm saying when it comes time to who's your top 1%er, right? The spots for a 1%er is very selective. So you got to weed out. Not everybody can be a 1%er. So then you're only remembered for the mistakes you made.
Okay, so we
Alex
agree though,
grades
not
on the
everybody.
curve is what I'm hearing. He grades
Say
on the
again,
bell
Ron?
curve. Alex grades on the bell curve. There's only going to be one A, two Bs.
My grade is my grade is if you want to do well with me, you got to be able to read my mind. Like you got to know the problem before I know the problem.
curious what your job descriptions looked like. Truly, because it feels like you would have to be really precise with your language and what you were looking for and the qualifications. Is that true?
I'm not very easily impressed by all the resumes I look at for Jira admins, if that's what you're asking.
No, I'm asking you about the job descriptions that you would have created for folks.
When I'm looking for somebody on my team, the only thing that I look for is curiosity. Because that curiosity is going to take you to figuring life out. That the questions and answers that we have in Jira, anybody can memorize it, but it's having that curiosity of knowing if it's right or wrong, or not from a right or wrong from a technical perspective, but right or wrong, like, is that what we should be solving?
And then how would you measure their success?
I don't. Again,
you measure their failures.
No. No, like I told you at the beginning, right? The proof is in the pudding. Like, if I think Steve Jobs famously said, like, he doesn't do performance reviews, right? And what's his face from NVIDIA doesn't do performance reviews in his one-on-ones, right? Because as long as the ship is going in the right direction, then your team's doing the right job. Your metrics, reports, reviews, that only happens because things went wrong and you're trying to justify why things went wrong.
Everyone's having a field day with this 20 minutes quote.
I know.
Do a good job and nobody will bat an eye.
If only those stickers weren't all printed already. We could have 20-minute stickers. No, I do like where you're coming from, Alex, and I agree wholeheartedly with its outcomes, right? That the little nitty-gritty things just create problems. There's our stickers.
Thank you, Bob.
I feel weird saying our, but I'm going to go ahead and say our. I'm using our.
I mean, you've got an official nickname now, so.
Oh, no.
Jira Mom? The Jira Mom.
I love it. Yes. I was thinking also like Jira therapist.
I like this. I like this comment from Chris, right? Your curiosity is capped at 20 minutes. And I think that's very important because if left to your own devices, you will wander forever.
Mm-hmm. I do.
So, I mean, we've all had those days.
Yeah. So
probably back in college where we just spent a whole day down a rabbit hole in Wikipedia.
Yeah. So I'd rather do multiple 20-minute reps than one giant long. And I like with my wife and I, like, this is one of my frustrations that I have with her, right? It's like when she's looking at a problem, she goes deep into trying to fix the problem. And I'm like, I'm so surface level. Or like if I don't have a new answer in 20 minutes, like I'm re-shifting the problem. I'm not spending another 20 minutes on the same problem. But then that's when she gets frustrated with me because I don't marinate enough to see it through, to see if this
right?
is really worth it. But who gets there faster? Is that the right way to look at it?
But does that matter? Which matters?
I mean, if it's faster, but it's the wrong answer at the end of the day,
then you're just
is it really faster?
But if I'm consistently doing it wrong 20, like if I spent 20 minutes and I did it wrong, but I did 50 iterations versus she spent 8 hours in one iteration, and we both get to the problem 8 hours later, but I learned 50 ways of not doing it and she learned one way of doing it, who got the better outcome?
It's the same.
But I learned 50 ways of not doing it, so I now have 50x more information.
Well, I would think that in the deep exploration, you're still doing that. You're still figuring out what doesn't work.
But
you might just
your
be
blinders
producing.
But your blinders are stricter, right? Like you're solving that problem in that specific way with that specific. You're deep in that one route. I left a lot of potholes along the way.
So we're getting to the end of the episode, so I think we need a good recap. And I think the recap from this episode is, according to Alex, all SLAs should be 20 minutes.
SLAs are 20 minutes, only measure failure. And
I didn't say you measure failure. I said you only get remembered for your failures.
That's a measurement.
I heard.
I actually gotta go on a Jira sticker. Jira admin, you only remember for your failure.
I know we had to prepare our stickers in advance because that's the nature of the beast, but we prepared our stickers way too far in advance.
Rep 2.
Yeah, I didn't know the turnaround on printing those would be so fast. So starting now, you start collecting phrases for next year.
Yep.
And then in a year from now, you're gonna go, what the hell did 20 minutes mean? Does anybody know what 20 minutes meant?
Not on the Jira Life. These things
Or
become
you're
a
looking
meme.
at
I
it
mean,
like-
we're still talking about tacos.
Yeah, or you're looking at it as like in. I remember when it used to take me 20 minutes, and I can do it in 5.
Exactly. No, that does happen. Okay, wait. Just real quick, you don't have to answer. You can say like prefer not to disclose. Are either one of you ADHD? Rodney, you are? Okay, and Alex not. So that's an interesting thing, right? Because rabbit holing something so easy, right? It just like, and then look up and it's 3 hours later. But I will say you probably just also learned as much as Mr. 50 iterations of 20 minutes by rabbit holing potentially on one. What do you say, Rodney?
Probably. I mean, let's just discuss. I have experience being a admin for phone systems, business analyst, IT operator, network operator,
Jira admin.
Confluence admin, Salesforce. I've done Salesforce admin. And the problem is I just get bored and I pull something up and I start learning.
Yeah.
But I think this was some great discussion. I think we got some great memes that are going to haunt us for the next year. Alex, you have to record if you get a 20-minute t-shirt. Because I'm sure one of our fans is already working on it.
And Sarah, I'll pick you up in 20 minutes from the airport.
I know. I'm trying to think.
Or less.
Domino's was 30 minutes, right?
I think Domino's was 30 minutes. Maybe I should bump mine up to 30 minutes, but I feel like 20 minutes sounds better.
It does.
See.
Our host, our producer over there is giving us the
It's
Exactly.
time to, yeah.
I can
Thank
see
you,
him.
everyone, for watching today. It's been a great discussion. Thank you to Revise for having our back. And next week, we'll be talking about how to survive Team 25. But as we always say here, we didn't choose the Jira Life. Jira Life chose us. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for listening to the Jira Life. Our hosts are Alex, Dr. Jira Ortiz, and Rodney, the Jira Guy, Nissen. You can find Alex on YouTube at 8Tech Tutorials, and Rodney's blog is found over at thejiraguy.com. Our producers are Robert King Bob Wen and Lina Ortiz. You can catch us live as we record this podcast every Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on YouTube at The Jira Life. Be sure to join us and our other Jira Amigos of the Peanut Gallery every week to ask your questions, let us know your comments, and just tell us what you're up to. But if you can't join us live, you can still catch the replay over on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell while you're watching. We're also available as a podcast over on Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you listen to it and think it deserves a rating, we would very much appreciate it, as it will help others discover the Jira Life. Because we didn't choose the Jira Life. The Jira Life chose us.